What's going on, guys? Meteorologist Jonathan Kegges back with you on a Friday. We have made it just about to the weekend. Hope you're doing well. We're coming at you live on News 6 Plus and, of course, on the News 6 YouTube page. A lot to break down tonight. If you recognize what the weather was today, if you took note of the early start time to the storms across a lot of Central Florida, and certainly not everybody saw the rain, embed that in your mind because that, I think, is what we're going to deal with for the next 72 hours. This unsettled weather pattern coming through the state of Florida. We have a stalled boundary just towards our north, and that's going to continue to keep waves of rain, these periods of rain rolling right off the Gulf and then through parts of the state of Florida, especially central Florida. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the timeline if you have plans. But again, don't be caught off guard. And that's the main message that I have for you guys tonight. Don't be caught off guard when you hear rumble of thunder in the morning, especially if you're west of Orlando or hear the downpours on the roof, because that's going to be expected again. And then just like today, those are going to roll from west to east to I-4. We're going to break all of that down through the course of this show. Then we're going to give a tropics update, of course. Now we are in the mean season, as it's sometimes referred to. August 20th typically starts the climatologically most active period from August 20th through the middle of October. That is peak season. 85% of the activity occurs in between that time. Really, anything that falls outside is just quote unquote bonus for a typical hurricane season. So again, the real meat and potatoes of the season started about 2 days ago, and we will see what happens going forward. We'll touch on that a little bit coming up in just a couple of minutes. And then, of course, your comments. If you have any questions, please post them in. At the very least, I would love to know where you're tuning in from tonight. It helps me pick where the cameras that we're doing for the live stream are focused on. So tonight we're focused on Newport Richey and then in Kissimmee. I think the Kissimmee cam right here from our WeatherStem network of cameras from our friends at WeatherStem, one of my favorites. I love the lighthouse there at the park. Fantastic stuff. So again, post in the comments where you're tuning in from, and we are going to get to it. Have some cool stuff to show you when it comes to Hurricane Erin that is officially post-tropical now. So we can finally close the book on Erin. It seems like we've been talking about that forever. We literally have. Okay. So this is tomorrow morning now. This is 2 o'clock in the morning, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. Scattered thunderstorms already pushing towards the Big Bend and already pushing to the I-75 corridor. So if you're watching from Tampa or St. Pete or Fort Myers or anywhere in the Big Bend, that is where we're going to be watching for the scattered downpours and maybe rumbles of thunder. You see them streaming across the state through the afternoon. There's 11 o'clock. Some of those rock and thunderstorms still with us. And notice how it all builds back all the way to the west. You see toward New Orleans even. We've got more thunderstorms bubbling up out over the Gulf, and then all of those have to come on through. So unsettled is the word that I like to use to describe this weekend. Of course, we have thunderstorms almost every single day when it comes to Florida, with a sea breeze helping things out. But it's different in the fact that we are now getting the rain at unusual times. That's why I keep on saying I'm going to say it tonight at 10. I'm going to say it after this football game when whatever we start the time. We're going to go on a little bit late on the 11 o'clock because of preseason football. But I just don't want you to be caught off guard with the rain because it happens all the time. I'll get an email. I don't want you to send emails. I mean, you can send emails and say, hey, but bad emails, because that's what I want to hammer home over the next 24 hours, 48, 70. I mean, really through Monday, this pattern is going to stick with us. Here we go as we move to 11 o'clock on Saturday night, still the opportunity for a straight downpour. So unsettled, the key word. So this was this afternoon. Of course, we have a giant race in Daytona tomorrow. I'm cautiously optimistic. We might get wet in the infield. We might have to do some dodging when it comes to thunderstorms in the early afternoon. I'm still optimistic that most of these storms will fade by the time the race gets underway. There might have to be some driving. There might have to be some drying on the track and all that. But nonetheless, I'm optimistic that we're going to be rain free at the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at the Daytona International Speedway. The one thing I will say is that we still have the risk again to see a stray downpour come through that could mess things up. Rain chances aren't completely zero during the race, but they're much lower than where they are, say, prior to 5 o'clock in the evening. So we'll continue to take that for what it's worth and just continue to keep our fingers crossed that we get that race in dry. But you see here, those dashed lines, that's what we call a surface trough, and it just stays there. There's some shifting winds, and south of that boundary, the winds are off of the Gulf out of the west, and that just continues to keep that unsettled pattern with us. It continues to keep rainfall pushing through over the next. Again, that's Sunday at 5, and I believe that still parks itself there getting into Monday. So it's going to be different. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be different. And as a result, we're going to be cooler, relatively speaking. I mean, in Pensacola, we're in the 80s, 84 in Tallahassee. The blue boxes are popping up all over the state of Florida, which would indicate below normal temperatures for that respective city. Jacksonville, we're at 88. Orlando, we're at 91. That's right where we should be. Might be a notch or two cooler depending upon what time the storm hits the airport. Tampa, we're at 91. Vero Beach, we're at 91. That is a little bit above 93 degrees in Miami. And that's the other thing that I'll say. The further east you are, southeast, really, that'll be the later opportunity for those storms as everything's moving from west to east. So that is what I'm going to be watching going forward, is warmer air, or things that get a little warmer the further south and east you are across the state of Florida, just like what we see right there. So again, unsettled weather. Limitless Lightning mentioned want some fall. It's going to be crazy how chilly. I mean, it might even be cooler than that next week in North Carolina. Like I see, I mean, it's going to be super crisp in Georgia. If you want a taste of fall, you don't have to go very far. Like a couple hour drive to the north and you're going to get it. That front pretty much stalls out right on the Georgia-Florida line. And I mean, it still might be in the 90s in Jacksonville, but it could be in the 80s. And I mean, not this kind of 80s where it's still muggy, like a nice, clean, sweet, big fall front. It's so close to Florida. I'm even thinking that we could benefit from it here in Central Florida. There's conflicting data, and I've been trying to grind down if we're going to get it. But I do think at the end of next week, it could feel a little less humid. The air is going to be a little drier. So it's not going to be cooler or anything like that. I don't think we're ready to give the AC a break or anything. But I am optimistic that we might be able to feel some of that relief. And we'll take anything at this point at the end of a very long, hot Florida summer. Alrighty, guys, I have to get my first break in. Coming up, we're going to talk all things tropics. The next named storm of the season could develop this weekend. I'm going to show you where it's at. And I also have something really cool to show you when it comes to what was Hurricane Erin. Really cool stuff tonight. Thank you guys a ton for being here. Post in the comments where you're tuning in from. I'll catch you in about 3 minutes. Alrighty, guys, welcome back on a Friday. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Post in the comments where you're tuning in from, any questions. I'll do my best to get to them through the course of the show. Hurricane season obviously now in full swing. Erin was out there. It was a very powerful storm. Thankfully, it did not make landfall. It would have been of the historic proportion with it rapidly intensifying and all of that going through the last couple of really 10 plus days that we were watching this. I want to show you this, though. The sea surface temperature anomalies after Erin. So the red indicates where the water temperature is above normal. And again, it's pretty much everywhere above normal. So that's going to be a force to be reckoned with as we get deeper into the hurricane season. And as it looks like we'll get a flurry of activity again in September and October. But look where the blue is. Look at that blue color there. That is exactly where Erin was for a good chunk of its life, for a couple days there, and it just sat there and it churned up the water. This is one of the reasons why it also weakened a little bit in this area, was because it wasn't moving very fast. And when you get these big 20, 30, 40-foot waves associated with the hurricane, you might imagine it churns up that cooler water that resides way below the ocean surface. So this is, you can pretty much map where Erin was. All the blue represents the track, and then there it is again up here, the little blue that on the east side of the Gulf Stream tonight. So those are the different, that's the sea surface temperature anomaly change since Erin came through. Note, though, kind of everywhere else, the main development region still kind of, thankfully, not the greatest right now in terms of development chances. Also, keep an eye on that Newport Richie cam. We have some lightning showing back up. And it's juiced in the Caribbean and juiced in the Gulf as well. So we're going to have to watch that closely over the next couple of months, really through late October. Here's our next potential name system, high chance for development over the next couple of days. Right now, it is not very organized. It's kind of stretched out. Hurricane Center gives this an 80% chance for development over the next 2 days. So we're likely going to get a tropical depression this weekend. Could become a named storm. If we do get it, the next name is going to be Fernand. Not Fernand. It's French. It's going to look like Fernand, but it is Fernand. So it's pronounced Fernahn. So it's going to be a weird one. Hopefully we just get it to be a short-lived thing out there. We don't have to worry about pronouncing that one. But Fernand is the next name, if that does in fact materialize and become the next name storm of the 2025 hurricane season. That is likely not going to pose any kind of threat to anybody. It could get close to Bermuda. It could get close to Newfoundland, but both should be misses as it lifts north and then northeast over the next 7 to 10 days. And again, this one's 100% staying away from the United States. And while that is happening, we have this big cool down that Limitless Lightning was referring to next week. This big dip in the jet stream over the eastern 2/3 of the country, this trough as we call it, that is what is going to help protect the United States, at least the eastern seaboard, from any kind of tropical system that's coming in from east to the west. So if it's coming in from Africa and stays in the Atlantic Ocean, it's going to deflect. There is no way that anything can connect when you have a trough like that. It's way more significant than the one that was able to steer powerful Erin away. And you see still through August 27th, that dip in the jet stream is there. So we are talking about that continuing to hang out really through Labor Day weekend. So we're protected from the east through Labor Day because of that trough out there. Here is what's left of Erin, by the way. That's not Erin. This is Erin. Now a post-tropical system. So what happens with these tropical things? They develop, they become tropical in nature, meaning that they get their strength from the warmer water temperatures and not differences in temperature and pressure in the atmosphere. Okay. Non-tropical systems get their strength from differences in temperature and pressure. That's why you see those big nor'easters in the wintertime, those big blizzards in the upper Midwest, because there's a big change in pressure and temperature. What has happened now, it's made its transition from a tropical cyclone to a post-tropical cyclone. It's merged with that thing that steered it. It's all elongated, and now it's not firing storms around its center, and it has lost its ability to gain strength from the warm water. You'll notice, though, it is still very strong, a very strong non-tropical system with winds of 90 miles an hour still. So that thing still is cranking along tonight. And it's going to continue to work its way north and northeast and leaving everybody alone. Again, not connecting with land, thankfully. Another thing we're watching here, this is the yellow highlight on the map. This is going to be Invest 99L. It had an orange bubble around it for medium shot. It was taken down to low because the conditions just aren't that favorable in this area. However, if there can be some semblance of a low pressure remaining as it gets into the central Caribbean and then eventually the Western Caribbean, I think there is an opportunity for this thing to come back. So that's going to be something sneaky to watch over the next week to 10 days as we get ready to close out of August. We'll be watching that closely to see if it does anything as it gets closer to Central America, to the Yucatan as well, but not expected to develop any more anyway, at least over the next couple of days. So that is going to be something that we are watching. Alrighty, guys, I got to get my next break in. Post in the comments where you're tuning in from. We'll keep the conversation rolling through the break. Hope everybody's doing well. I really appreciate you taking time on a Friday night to come hang out with me and talk about the weather. I love this show. I love being able to hang out with everybody. Thank you a ton. I will catch you in 3 minutes. All right, Melissa, there is a slight chance for a couple of showers. I think that your best shot is going to be early tomorrow afternoon for some rain, though. Just a slight opportunity for those showers. I want to show you this. We're talking about the cool down. This is next week. It says tonight. That's supposed to say this is Thursday night. Let me change that just so it doesn't confuse anybody. This is Thursday night. Look how close it is. I mean, you're talking 50s in Nashville, 60s in Atlanta. It's so close. That's where the cool air is. That's where the cool air is hanging out. 50s in Nashville, 60s in Atlanta, 61 degrees in Charlotte. Myrtle Beach, even 68. Friday gets a little bit further south. It's wild. Again, this is a big cold front, certainly rare for this time of the year, but it's wild out there. Good to have you here, Kimberly. We love Weather Geeks. Just hanging out. Just hanging out. And that's going to be the interesting. I still think there's a shot. Friday, like, as we get into Friday, it might feel a little comfortable. We're not talking 60s or anything like that, but I think there's a shot that it can. I think there's a shot that we get in on some of that drier air anyway, and it can kind of help us out just a little bit. It's wild. Alrighty, guys. Thank you a ton for being here tonight. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Be safe out there. We're keeping tabs on those other two storms. Again, don't be alarmed if you see new tropical depression form. It's staying out at sea. Again, we are here every Monday through Friday, 9:30 on News 6 Plus and on the News 6 YouTube page. Can't wait to catch you guys very, very soon. Again, be safe this weekend. We're watching the weather, of course, all the time. And we're back here again Monday, 9:30. We'll catch you then.